is a lot of work. Okay, this is pretty good. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Knitten Purl Podcast. My name is Ivy. I am a knitter and crocheter that is based in Vancouver, Canada, where I live with my 3 cats, and this is a podcast all about my knitting. Occasionally crochet, probably mostly knitting. Um, one more knitting podcast to join the myriad already on YouTube. And I guess the question that I probably want to answer right off is why this podcast and why should you watch me? Um, well, to tell you the truth, I'm not an incredibly fast knitter. So if you're looking for a podcast where every single episode I have like 3 or 4 finished objects, that's probably not going to be this one. I knit pretty slowly and I'm fairly beginner, especially at making patterns, or not making patterns, excuse me, following patterns. And yeah, so I mean, it's going to be a podcast mostly about the mistakes that I make while knitting, all the learning that I do, and probably have a lot of really honest reviews about how I feel about a pattern, how I feel about a yarn, and yeah, how I felt knitting it. For me, when I watch knitting podcasts, and I do a lot, like an embarrassingly large amount of YouTube is consumed by me. That was an awkward sentence construction. Anyways, um, yeah, so when I watch knitting podcasts, I love to see knitters showing off new patterns and showing off new yarn that they get. And but I also like seeing their mistakes, and so that I thought that why not have a knitting podcast? But really, this is for me. I am the kind of person that really likes to talk about something when I really like it. And part of the enjoyment that I get out of something is in getting to talk about it and share it with others. And I don't have a lot of friends who are also knitters, so I haven't had an outlet to really talk about this hobby that I've started up. In December 2021. And yeah, like this is just a way for me to document my knitting journey really. Um, and to get a chance to nerd out about yarn and the patterns and yeah, talk really in depth. So this is mostly for me. It'd be really cool if you watched it and gave me your feedback. And because it's for me, I don't know, how much of a set schedule this will be, maybe once every 3 weeks. Again, I'm not super prolific, so I don't really anticipate, like a weekly podcast would be pretty boring. It'd be like, look, I knit another inch. Oh no, I had to rip back an inch and a half. So actually, I'm back 2 steps, that sort of thing. And I, because I'm from Canada, I actually really like watching Canadian knitters. We don't get the same access to the same kind of yarn as Europeans and Americans do. And yeah, I feel like we have fewer choices and it's pretty expensive here. I also really enjoy, watching podcasts from people who look like me. I'm Chinese. I was actually born in China and moved to Canada when I was quite young. And I really believe in, that representation in media matters. So yeah, why not? Um, Okay, well, I think that's it for a very rambly intro. This is going to be a very rambly podcast. I'm not very good with editing. In fact, I don't know how to edit at all. So we shall see what happens. Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, I think this will just follow the same format as everything else, except for I am currently trying not to buy yarn, mostly because I have an embarrassing large amount of yarn and I'll be moving soon and I don't want to move any more yarn than I already will be moving, which again will be a lot. And again, I knit very slowly. Um, yeah, let's start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing a Summer Secret crop by Jessie May. This I knit up. This is a free pattern, and it is free for the duration of the COVID pandemic, which I is still happening, I think, or I don't know how she decides to count it, but it is free. Was super easy to knit up. I knit this up in Hobbii yarn. This is their Rainbow 8/6. It's 100% cotton. And there are about 105 meters per 50-gram ball. I bought this yarn, I think on Black Friday last year, and I think I bought maybe 6 or 7 balls. I had no plans with it, which is something that I do more often than I should, buy yarn without any plans for it. And yeah, I think it's about a sport weight. I'm not really sure what they mean by the 8/6. I actually did like the wraps per inch to try and figure out what weight this was because it didn't actually say anywhere. It says it's a 2 weight, fine, but yeah, I didn't really know what that meant. And I think it's like a 4-ply. And this pattern originally called for fingering weight, I believe, and I don't know how I futzed the gauge, but I knit the second smallest size and I accidentally did the decreases for the first smallest size, I think. Oof. Yeah, and so it's a little bit more narrow at the top than it should be. Um, and I think I added an inch in length. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. This cotton hasn't stretched a ton yet, but I haven't worn it very much. And this was my first finished object that was done completely in cotton. Um, it's not quite summer yet in Vancouver. I mean, it's still spring. It's actually a really cloudy day and it will probably rain pretty soon. But for some reason, I just didn't want to knit with any wool, and I thought, oh, I should try this summer yarn that everyone's talking about. And yeah, I don't mind knitting with cotton. I know some people mind that it's not very stretchy and has no give. I think it was completely fine. It was very slippery, and that was a problem. So whenever I dropped a stitch, which happens pretty often, it would pretty easily like ladder all the way down. But it was a really simple pattern to knit, and I could see myself knitting a few more, but I think I would have to get better at modifying patterns before I wanted to give this another shot. Um, okay, so yeah, I don't think I did any mods. I but I did learn some new techniques, which is really cool. I learned she uses a kind of double I-cord strap. It's a free pattern, so I don't really feel like I can't tell you, which was really fun to knit. And I thought looks really cool and looks really professional. Um, but it's only like, I think it's like 6 stitches wide, and it was a heck of a time turning the work back and forth over and over again. So I kind of taught myself mirror knitting, which is when you like knit backwards because I just didn't want to turn the work. I kind of not really because it's like slip stitches and knit stitches, so it's not like I really learned it. But yeah, that I thought was faster and the straps went really quickly. Um, did I do any other modifications? I don't think I did. I added an inch of length. I think the reason why I would want to get better at knitting before I would do this again is because this top hem I did as a pattern suggested, which was just like a regular bind off, and it is rolling a tad. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think my cat is. Oh, that was embarrassing. I don't know if I'm gonna cut that out, but one of my cats was meowing, and I thought that she was stuck in a closet, but she was just getting attention. Harper, darling, do you want to come in the shot? Do you want to hang out with me? Yeah, come on. Yeah. Oh, good girl. This is Harper. Harper is very nice. Yeah. She likes to cuddle, and she is about 10 months old and kind of very hyper. And oh, Excuse me, she's showing everybody her butthole and I'm about to get demonetized. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Thank you for purring. Um, so yeah, so this is my summer secret top. It was really quick. It's obviously a very small crop top and very fun. But I would like to think about a different kind of edging, potentially like an I-cord or something like that, to bind off the top so it doesn't roll. I'm also not sure if I would knit another one in cotton. I guess we'll see how it wears this summer. I haven't had a chance to wear it that much, and honestly, like today is a little bit too cold to really be wearing it, but a podcast needs something knitted, and my sweaters are like really thick. Okay, so yeah, and that is what I'm wearing. Hi, darling. Are you gonna sleep here or do you just want to cuddle? I'm hoping that my other cats will eventually make an appearance in future episodes, though it's kind of doubtful they're not cuddly. Like they're sleeping behind the camera right now. Oh, hi, darling. Yeah. Oh, I love you too. Okay, so that is what I'm wearing. Let's talk about finished objects. I have one. Oh, I'm trying to reach. Oh, this is so awkward. Okay. This is another Jessie Maed design. It's in the exact same yarn. I'm already super basic. This is the Framework Bralette by Jessie Maed. And yeah, this is in the exact same yarn, which is the Hobbii Cotton 8/6 in the exact same colorway because I have 4 or 5 balls. So I think I still have like 2.5 balls. This ended up being about 73 grams of yarn. So like a ball and a half. And yeah, and I still have the scraps from this one, and I think 2 more full balls. So I'm gonna be wearing a lot of this color this summer, I think. And it, I knit this in an extra small because she suggested that if somebody is knitting this in cotton, that they do it size down. And my bust circumference is about 33 inches around. And this has negative ease. So I can't exactly remember how many inches around this is, but it's quite a bit smaller than 33 inches. And I was very skeptical, but yeah, cotton does stretch. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. Well, okay, here's the thing. I'm like, I'm really bad at ribbing. And I really noticed it because it's not even ribbing, it's whenever I switch from a knit to a purl. So in these panels, if you can see on the left-hand side of the knit stitches, they're a little bit more open. And it always happens on the left-hand side. So it happened here, it happened on these sides, and I just thought it looked awful. Like it just had like a really spread out looking knit stitch. And I decided in the middle of this project to try a number of different tactics to um, make the knit stitches tighter. So you may be able to see it on this side because here's when on the side of the bralette that I just did not care about aesthetic at all. At the bottom, I don't know if you can see this, and I'm not going to get any closer to the camera because Harper's on my lap and she's not going anywhere. The bottom, because this is knit bottom up, I just did like a normal knit purl, and then 6 or 7 rows in, I was like, this looks terrible, and I decided to twist my stitches. So that's why there's a column of like really tight knit stitches here, because when you do a twisted stitch, it does tighten it up. And then I thought, yeah, that doesn't look that good either, because it's so clearly twisted. And then I just went back and I think I twisted the purl next to it or something like that. Yeah, and I did that on all of the different sides, and I was chatting with Naomi from the NJ Knits podcast, and I just mentioned that my ribbing looked awful. And she very kindly asked me what it looked like, and I sent her some pictures. And she said that she thought it would block out. And she was right, because at the end of the day, after blocking, like there's really not that much difference, even though I tried a bunch of different techniques. I ended up laddering down and untwisting all of the knit stitches on the front and the back because I thought it was just way too obvious and did not look cute. Um, though, yeah, it kind of blocked out and you can't really see a difference. It's still a little bit more open, but I mean, it's fine, but I couldn't be bothered to do it on the sides because it's the sides, who cares? Um, and yeah, and I think I'm gonna have to go back and like thread the bottom of this with elastic just to make sure that it doesn't loosen up too much. And uh, yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, no, there's another really terrible thing about this finished object, and that is the strap. So it's the same kind of strap as in the Summer Secret crop, but Jessie May gives two options for attaching the back and the front. The first option is a 3 needle bind off. The second option, and she says is in the pattern, and like the neater and more seamless option is Kitchener stitch. And I have never done Kitchener stitch before. And I was like, oh, great, a new technique. Because I like learning and trying new techniques with every project as well, not just knitting, which is also super fun. So I did Kitchener stitch on both of the, to join the two straps, and it looked awful. Um, yeah, if I can like figure out how to insert a picture, I will. Like here, maybe. But yeah, it looked so bad, and I cannot tell if it's because I did a bad job, which is probably true. Like it probably is because I did a bad job, but I don't know like how I did a bad job, and I also it or if it's because like this isn't quite joining stockinette, so it's not. I mean, I don't know. I'm confusing myself. Anyways, the strap ended up looking like so flattened and yeah, like a pancaked, like someone had like driven a truck over that one part of the strap. And I mean, this saga, it was a nightmare. Basically, what happened was I came home after a long day of work, and realized that I only had to do like another couple centimeters on one of the straps. Then I had to join the straps, and then I was done. And I was exhausted at that point, and should have gone to bed. And instead was like, you know what? I'll just power through and I'll finish and I'll feel so accomplished. And people say like, don't knit when you're tired. And I knew that and was still like, I'm gonna power through and I'm gonna feel so accomplished and I'm gonna finish this tonight, and then um and yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna finish this tonight and I can start my next thing. So I knit the couple centimeters. Then I saw that there was Kitchener stitch. I looked up a couple YouTube tutorials on how to do the Kitchener stitch. I think I figured it out. I think I was doing all the steps correctly. I just feel like my tension, maybe pulling the yarn through like with the needle and stuff, maybe wasn't right, or wasn't properly accounting for the fact that this wasn't true stockinette. Um, so finish one strap with the Kitchener stitch. It looked awful. I was like, well, you know, these things happen. Like, it's a handmade object. I'm just getting into the swing of things. Like, let's do the other one. So I did the second one. It looked even worse somehow. Um, and then I was just so tired. I was looking at the top thinking like, well, but I'm done now. And like I even weaved in all the ends of the straps too, which I don't know why I did that. I think because to really like tell myself that I would be done. But I was like, I'm done now. Like it looks terrible, but at least I'm done and I can walk away from this. Um, and then I thought to myself, like, and I was trying to convince myself that it would be fine. I was like, well, I mean, it's a strap. Like, who's gonna see the strap? It only goes on it only goes on the top of my shoulder, which is super visible because I am pretty short. And I realized that I wouldn't be able to live with that mistake. So I was thinking, well, I was trying to convince myself, like, can I live with that mistake? Can I not? Then I also realized the first strap that I Kitchenered on, I had Kitchenered twisted. So that at that point, I just went to bed. Like, I had convinced myself that it was okay the way it was and that it wouldn't be that bad. And then I realized I twisted it and I was like, I just didn't have the energy to unpick it, redo it. And so I was like, I need to go to bed. And I did. And the next morning I woke up invigorated, um, unpicked it, untwisted it, re-Kitchenered it. It was like third time's the charm. I've got a lot of energy now. I had a great night's sleep. Like, I got this. It looked terrible, still terrible. Um, and then was like, huh. Then I was like, you know what? That's okay. Woven all the ends, went about my day. An hour later, I was still thinking about it. Oh, are you gone? Are you leaving? Goodbye. Um, welcome to come back. Okay. Well, yeah, realized an hour later that I was still thinking about it, realized that I really did care. And unpicked both straps and did 3 needle bind off, which looks fine. Yeah, anyways, unpicking both after I'd woven all the ends in, and then redoing them like 3 or 4 times. It took me a really long time, like probably hours, and I'm not proud of it and not proud of how frustrated I got. I am proud that this is done. I do hope to get somewhere out of this in the summer, and I would love to make another one. But I would love to do, I didn't see it on the pattern until after I completely finished it. But she has Jessie May has a sample of one, and that's come on, Harper. I have a mirror that was angled, showing the camera so I could see myself. It took me like 5 minutes to set up, and she just went over and smacked it with her paw, and now I can't see myself. So the rest of this podcast is awful. You can blame Harper. Harper? No, don't eat plants. Yeah, but she has a sample that's knit up, and I didn't see it in the pattern until after I was finished. But she actually does do some mods. I believe the cups are decreased a little bit less or something, and I really liked the shape and the fit of that. So if I do knit another one, I think I will follow her modifications. Um, and if I do knit another one, this is supposed to be in DK. I didn't do a gauge swatch because YOLO, and I just wanted the yarn to use up the yarn. I didn't use up that much. Don't know if I will do another one in this color. Um, but yeah, if you have any thoughts for more of that cotton yarn, let me know. I'm a little bit worried about it. Harper, no, don't eat the plant. You're coming to me with dirt on your chin. The dirt is clearly from the plant. She is a nightmare, but I love you. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, this pattern I think called for DK weight, or yeah, DK weight yarn. This is, I think, a sport. I didn't do a gauge swatch because I just could not care about that anymore and wanted to use up the yarn. It ended up being fine, which is not good for my ego because that's just telling me that I don't need to gauge swatch and that my tension is perfect, which, as you can see from the stitch definition, is clearly not true. Welcome back, my love. Okay, so that's a finished object. I don't know how long I talked. The mirror is gone. Everything's gone. Oh my god. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I can't believe this is caught on video, and I can't believe I'm going to upload it to YouTube. I hope that... I can't tell if I hope that a lot of people watch this or that nobody watches this. Okay. With number one, this is not a project bag. This is a terry cloth bag featuring Gudetama, which is a Sanrio character that I love. He is a cupcake on the front and a roll cake on the back, but this is where I keep my sock whip. And this is my whip number one. So this is the intersection sock. It is, I can't remember the designer name of that, which is awful. I should have really looked at that. It is from the 52 Weeks of Sock book by Lina Magazine. It is the first pattern. My goal, not this year, just because that's not going to happen this year, but my goal is to knit through the book and try and do every pattern in order. We'll see how far I get because this is number one, and I've been working on this legitimately for over a month. This is only my second pair of socks that I've ever knit, and this is also the first time I'm doing it two at a time. And I am knitting this using Lang sock yarn, Super Socks, Islandsoxx. This label has the word socks in too many places. Like, I have no idea what this yarn is called. It's from Islandsoxx. It's like Super Socks, Islandsoxx in the Madeira colorway. And it is a superwash merino with 75% wool and 25% polyamide. It is going to be like a gradient, I believe. Not quite self-striping, which is super cool. I do not understand how to wind a skein of yarn into two cakes such that the color change is the same. And as a result, it is completely backwards. But yeah, this sock I also modified because I have a very small foot. I think I did something like 56 stitches. So it's knit on 2.25, which is smaller than the smallest size. And I fudged the chart. I fudged up the stitch count because it is a chart. It's cabled at the chart, and I thought I was doing the math right. I was wrong. So I have an extra stitch on either side of the front of the sock, which is where you apply the chart. But I think it looks fine. And I am really liking the way that it is knitting up. It's a pretty simple repeat, pretty easy to memorize. I actually lost my sock mojo for like a couple, 2 to 3 weeks. I put them down and didn't pick them up at all. And then in the last couple weeks, like, knit up a couple inches pretty fast. I'm not somebody who can do multiple projects at once. I feel like I really hone in on one and then I get pretty far on it, then I swap. So I don't know if I'll have any more done by the time we do the next podcast episode, because it seems like I've moved back off of it. But yeah, it's pretty fun, and I'm heading up to the heel. I think I'm going to end up doing a fish lips kiss heel because I don't like knitting the heel flap and gusset, and I think the fish lips kiss heel fits me fine. And I can see the value of like a contrast toe because yeah, like this yarn is great, but it would have been cuter, I think, with a contrast toe. Oh well, learnings for next time. And the toe increase are actually like knit front back, which is the first time I've seen that in a sock pattern. She says, as though she's knit like so many sock patterns. She has not. But yeah, I think this will be really cute. Oh, the other thing is, because this is a cabled, the pattern is created with cables. I thought that I would be really clever and cable without a cable needle, not realizing that superwash wool is really slippery and these stitches are really tiny and the stitches just like go all the way down. So I'm using like my stitch marker as my cable needle because it's like I use a little kind of safety pin stitch markers. So yeah, that is my sock. My socks. I'm not sure how I feel about two at a time. I did the first pair of socks on 9-inch circulars, which was pretty fun, and I didn't feel like I lost like that much motivation for the second sock. But I can see it. But this is actually really fun since the pattern is only on one side of the sock and it's straight stockinette on the bottom of the foot area. So yeah, I think for things like that, it's actually really fun because the two at a time splits the sock like directly in half. That is whip number one. And whip number two is going to be really small and not very eventful. And Harper, darling, I'm reaching over you. Yeah. I hope that you can see her because she is adorable. And I think the real reason to watch the podcast is so that you can hang out with Harper. Yeah, I love you. Okay, this is the Ursina sweater by Jacqueline Cieslak. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. I am probably not. This is the first time I'm knitting a pattern by Jacqueline Cieslak. No. You know what's awful about having pets, or like maybe cats specifically because I've never had a dog? It's just awful when they cuddle you and they act like this is it, like this is their forever spot. And then out of nowhere, she just like gets up and leaves. Like, what did I do wrong? I'll never know. Okay, back to knitting. Yeah, this is the Ursina sweater by Jacqueline Cieslak. And it is, I've not gotten very far. And I haven't joined it yet. This is a top-down raglan. And I am knitting this out of cotton yarn from Wool and the Gang. This is their Shiny Happy Cotton. I received a kit with this yarn for my birthday from some lovely coworkers, which is very, very generous. And it was enough. It is enough to make a sweater. However, the pattern in the kit is a seamed sweater, and for some reason, I just don't feel confident enough to seam a sweater. I feel like it will be harder than knitting one seamlessly. Um, so I cannot work up the courage to try it. And it's also like stockinette, so it's back and forth, and my knitting and purling tension is not the same. So yeah, I've been thinking for a long time about what I'm going to knit with this yarn. And then I was on Ravelry and looking at the yarn on Ravelry, and they actually had like a suggest patterns for this yarn. And the Ursa sweater was one of the suggested patterns, and I thought it was really beautiful. But that pattern was for a bulky weight, and then this is technically like a worsted Aran weight yarn. Actually, okay, I'll tell you more about the yarn. It is from Wool and the Gang. It is called their Shiny Happy Cotton. This is in the Eagle Gray colorway, which is, I'm so bad with colors. It is like a really dark, I mean, I guess it's gray. Like it's almost like a bluish gray black. Um, Maybe it's like, I don't call it like a bluish black. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't look at this and be like, oh, that's Eagle Gray. I don't know what Eagle Gray means. And it is 100 grams and 142 meters. So yeah, probably like an Aran weight. It is not that thick. Um, yeah, and I wouldn't call this a bulky weight though. So I didn't think that I would get the gauge for the Ursa sweater. It was something like 16 stitches. And it was, I think, knit on 6.5 millimeter needles. And knowing what I know about cotton yarn, which actually is just like theoretical because I've never knit with cotton yarn. Like this is my first finished objects and I haven't worn it very much, but people say that cotton yarn really stretches out and doesn't have elasticity. So I thought that a really open gauge would not be what I would want. So I decided to use the Ursina sweater, which is, I think she has stitch counts for both sport and worsted weight yarn. I thought that would be closer. And I knit up a gauge swatch for this, even though experience has taught me that I don't need to. but I was wrong because I definitely needed to. I knit this up on 4.5, and okay, TLDR, I could not get gauge for the life of me. The pattern suggests 4.5 millimeter needles. I tried that. I think the gauge is something like 16 or 18 inches, stitches per inch. Got something like 19 and a half. Then thought that the right thing to do would be to go down a needle size. Then didn't get gauge with 4, then went down to 3.75, still didn't get gauge, and was looking at my swatch thinking, why am I getting further away from gauge? Then had a light bulb moment where I realized, well, because I keep going down a needle size instead of up. So then went up to a 5 millimeter. I think I still didn't get gauge, but at that point, the fabric was just getting like looser and looser, and I just didn't want that look for the sweater. I still want it to be, ideally, I would like the sweater to be opaque, 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 not see-through. And I'm not sure if it will be see-through or not. Like if I tug at this, you can definitely see the light through it. And it probably will stretch out. And so basically I was at the point where I was like, well, this 4.5 is creating the fabric that I want, at the density that I want. I don't have the patterns gauge. And I was trying to do the math, or at least like understand the logic of like, okay, well, if I have more stitches than the pattern says I need, then that means if I follow a specific size, I will end up with a bigger piece of fabric or a smaller piece. And I was struggling so much. I think I decided that I would end up with a smaller piece of fabric, which I don't know if that's correct. And then I also decided that I would knit the second size, which is the size that would give me like the suggested size for my bust circumference with the suggested ease, but that it would be fine because the cotton yarn will stretch out. So yeah, so I basically like started this sweater and am fully prepared to have to rip it out completely because I am knitting the wrong size. Like I should probably knit the third size if I wanted to end up with something closer to the second size. But I think this is where my hubris is going to come to bite me, because in my mind, I'm like, I think it's going to be fine. Like it'll just, it'll stretch, but like, do I really want this to stretch that much? Stay tuned. And also, I do understand that it is probably impossible to see this because it is like black, basically black fabric, but I do wear a lot of black and gray, and so you should get used to seeing a lot of neutrals on this podcast. I made the mistake when I first started out knitting crocheting to buy yarn in pretty colors, but realized after that I wouldn't actually wear those colors in my real life, and thus it would be kind of a pain. This pattern actually has I think like false seams, and it's using half brioche, which I've never done before, and I didn't realize it would be. And it's got like detailing at the front, which I have gone to obviously at the front bottom, that I think will be half brioche as well. And I didn't realize that going into the pattern, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because if I had known that, I don't think I would have chosen this pattern because I've never done half brioche. However, I mean, given that it's just like one, I don't even know, like one stitch, and whenever I do it, it has been super fun, not that difficult, considering it's only been like one stitch, worked over 3 stitches. And yeah, like I'm really enjoying it. This is also the first pattern where I'm actually able to read my increases. like the make one lefts and the make one rights. I knew that the make one rights were slanting right and the make one lefts are slanting left, but I actually like didn't understand what that meant until um yeah, just a couple days ago, and I was like, oh, it grows this way. Um, yeah, and like spatial awareness is not something I'm very good at, which is probably not good for a beginner knitter. And then, oh, the final thing is that this yarn is like, it's got like a lot of plies in it. I have not untwisted it to count how many, but like I would say 6 to 10, potentially more. And is kind of lightly spun, which I can't tell if it's the actual way of the yarn or just like from me pulling at it and the twist that I'm adding in when I'm knitting. So it's very easy to split this yarn when I'm knitting it, and like miss a couple of threads. So that is something I do have to watch out for. The other thing with this yarn is that it is so soft. It is much softer than this Hobbii yarn. Though the fabric it knits up is reasonably soft. It is incredibly soft, but as a pet owner, as a cat owner with 3 cats that shed a lot, it is exactly the kind of feel and softness that just attracts cat hair or attracts pet hair like no other. So you could probably even see some of the pet hair that I'm knitting into this, which is a shame. But yeah, every single stitch I'm like pulling out pet hair. I'm kind of like doing a little, you know, tug at this right now. And um, yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a shame because this is going to have to be a sweater that I really like lint brush myself before and after I wear it. And probably I won't get as much wear out of it because um, my Harper, some orange fur, some white fur, and my other cats have seem to shed a lot of white fur, and it's not going to look that neat. And the other thing is I do think that this yarn will pill quite a bit because of how soft it is. Um, but I mean, I don't know. Like, what do I know? Seriously, like I'm knitting my size despite not getting gauge. It's like very silly. If someone could like walk me through step by step how to do knitting math, that would be very helpful because I just cannot seem to picture it correctly. And I feel like muttering to myself, like, okay, if this is more than the pattern, then that means that. And then I just pause because I really think when I say, well, that means that, like, I'll knit something bigger, something smaller. Like, I feel like the words should just come out of my mouth, but they don't. Like, some things, I don't know if you're like this, but for me, there are some things that I just cannot understand. And apparently, that is, knitting math and gauge is one of them. Another one would be like math between time zones. Really, really difficult for me. Um, but yeah, the Ursina, we'll see. Maybe next episode I'll have started again. Wouldn't that be fun? And that's it. I don't have any acquisitions, which is good because I am trying to not buy any more yarn so I don't have to move with it. Um, and yeah, like maybe I don't know how many more episodes I'll be doing from this apartment. With this setup, it took me a long time to set this up, and but yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you do like it, please leave me a comment and let me know what you thought because this is my first ever video and it's very nerve-wracking. Yeah, and I don't know, like and subscribe. This is gonna be it. So if you want to see more stuff like this, like by all means, like and subscribe. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I'm already talking down myself. But yes, thank you for watching.